Welcome into New York City. I am Bill Reiter. This is Reiter's Block here on CBS Sports HQ. The Warriors are playing pretty mediocre basketball. Some history came to an end last night, and Buffalo men's basketball coach Nate Oats joins me on the show. It all starts right now. Last night, for the Kansas Jayhawks against the University of Oklahoma, one of the most impressive streaks in sports history came to an end, and we're going to take a hard pause here and give it the respect it deserves. Kansas's run of domination, its streak of Big 12 championships, will end at 14, and after the loss to Oklahoma, after it became clear that this group of Jayhawks, and they're a talented basketball team, would not be able to carry on the tradition of dominance in that conference, which, by the way, not an easy thing to do to win a Big 12 championship, or at least it shouldn't be. Coach Bill Self, friend of the show, we've had him on here several times, went to the podium and talked about the mood after that streak came to an end.
The mood in our locker room? Yeah. Well, it's pretty quiet. I mean, we obviously got it handed to us right from the get-go and everything. You know, that for this team to perform well, we got to be, you know, have some things go right and be turned up, and when it started going bad, you know, we couldn't change it. But yeah, they're down. They you know, it's natural for them to be down right now.
Whether it's LeBron James making consecutive NBA finals, or it's Tiger Woods before his personal life engulfs his professional life, or the Patriots just every other year or more often being in the Super Bowl, we tend to take greatness for granted when it starts to become repetitive. Let's just take a moment to appreciate how difficult what Kansas pulled off truly was. Over those 14 years, a multitude of Big 12 teams had chances at national championships. The Michael Beasley Kansas team was incredible. Remember that K-State. That K-State team under Frank Martin made a Final Four. I covered Kansas City sports at a newspaper, the Kansas City Star, through some of this streak, and I can remember Kevin Durant at Texas and how remarkable he was, no matter what future NBA players they threw toward Kansas, no matter what great teams they threw toward Kansas, no matter what Big 12 players of the year, you see a lot of them there, they threw toward Kansas. Buddy Hield, Marcus Smart. KU always found a way at the end of the year to come out on top, and Bill Self smirking, talking about all shucks, we just kind of got it done. A little perspective, just the last time Kansas did not win, at least a share of the Big 12 crown in the regular season at the end of the year, Nick Saban had just won a split title at LSU. Chris Paul was a freshman, my favorite player, at Wake Forest. Emeka Okafor and Jameer Nelson were All-Americans. Yeah, by Usher was the top song in America. iPhones didn't exist, which means the world was a vastly different place. The Passion of Christ was the top grossing movie in America, and Entourage had debuted recently on HBO. I mean, there are 14-year-olds, players, basketball players, in fact, that Kansas and other programs have their eye on, are probably starting to recruit, who were just barely on this earth the last time KU did not accomplish this feat. And the numbers behind the run are pretty impressive. And by the way, Self did not win the Big 12 his first year at Kansas, then went on this run. Kansas reached 4 Final Fours over that time. They won that one championship where Mario Chalmers hit that shot, an amazing moment, unless you're a Memphis fan. They were the number 1 seed 8 times in the NCAA tournament over that run. I think this one's incredible. They won the Big 12 tournament 8 of the times, 8 of the 14 years. They also won the regular season crown. It was a level of greatness and a level of domination unlike few things, I won't say anything, but few things we've seen in college basketball. And in a lot of ways, I think it reflects some of the all-time records that we've seen. I mean, the Patriots' 10 consecutive playoff appearances and counting is pretty remarkable. I know Woodson at UCLA is the gold standard, but that was a different era. To be fair, in the one-and-done era, for Self to have kept this up and continued it, I think makes it an even more impressive accomplishment than it would have been in the 80s or the 90s. Certainly UConn's women's basketball record, 111 consecutive wins. But what Bill Self in Kansas did, quietly at times, underappreciated, I would argue not as heralded as it should have been, happened at a time when you're not supposed to be able to do that. I mean, we're gonna talk to Nate Oats in a second of Buffalo, number 19 team in the country, and his program, what he's done, epitomizes the fact that the Power 5 conferences don't have the stranglehold, just look at the Pac-12, they used to on the sport. It's remarkable. So what happened? What went wrong? Well, there's a few things. A lack of a veteran point guard for this Kansas team was a big part of it. You have to go all the way back to Mario Chalmers in terms of the last time, really before Chalmers, there wasn't an upperclassman, a veteran point guard that Bill Self had cultivated. And I've sat through those Bill Self practices. He's doing two things at once over the course of a season. He's getting his guys ready to play, and he's often grooming the next level of big man and now point guards to take the reins in a year or two or three. That just didn't happen this year. And no disrespect to the young guys on this team, maybe a little disrespect or at least a little perspective, because Quentin Grimes was an All-American, McDonald's All-American. A lot of people thought he'd be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft, and he just isn't ready. He just wasn't there. Disappointing season. It doesn't always happen quickly. And of course, there's the injury situation. And I know you can't make excuses with injuries. There were a spurt of them for this team, none more important whatsoever than big man extraordinaire for Kansas, Udoka Azubuike. Azubuike is a force of nature. And like Joel Embiid, if he gets healthy, and he will, when he's in the NBA, he's going to be a remarkable player. Kansas, 9-0 when he was part of the mix. Without him, a good basketball team, but not Big 12 champions. And Bill Self, for his own part, wasn't willing to allow injuries when he talked after that loss to Oklahoma last night to be an excuse for this streak no longer existing.
I know that we would certainly be better with our full complement of players, but you could say that about a lot of teams across the country. So to say losing a player is the reason why something happened, I'm not going to buy into that, because we've shown that we can play at a pretty high level. We just haven't done it consistently enough.
Which is not to say Kansas is going to have a bad year. I went to the University of Missouri, so did a couple people on this show. I actually like Kansas because I know Self, but I know we're supposed to hate Kansas. Those of you Missouri fans or Kansas haters like, yay, they're not very good. Don't get too excited. Number one in the RPI, 7-2 against top 25 RPI teams. They're they're a great basketball team this year. The reality is, another reason they didn't win the conference, the Big 12 is just really, really good, and they couldn't get it done. Their strength of schedule, Kansas this year was 1. So yes, it cost them a streak that was remarkably impressive. But this season, the one that prevented Bill Self from extending to 15, that run of domination in one of the Power 5 conferences, might also shape this Kansas team in a way that other seasons have not, because KU's inability to win that conference, the fact that Big 12 is really, really good this year, means Kansas, as great as they've been the last 14 years, might be better poised to make a deep run than a lot of the seasons where they dominated the Big 12. And we wanted to, in a time where people scream and they shout, and it's all, not all, but a lot of hot takes, not here on CBS Sports HQ, just take a step back. One cool thing we like about this show, and give Kansas and that little slice, not little, that remarkable slice of history they carved for themselves the credit it deserves. The streak is over, and it was worthy of some time and some celebration. But obviously college basketball marches forward, and there's a real chance Buffalo could be marching pretty deep into the tournament. Their head coach, Nate Oats, going to join me in a moment to talk about his remarkable career path, what makes Buffalo so good at what they do, and how far they can go. We'll have that conversation here on Writer's Block in just a moment. All right, welcome back into New York City and Writer's Block here on CBS Sports HQ. Thank you for hanging out. Really excited to visit right now with the head coach of the Buffalo men's basketball program. Coach Nate Oats joins me now on the show. Coach, thanks for making time.
No, thanks for having me on. Excited to be on.
Really excited to talk about your team and this season. But if you will, just bear with me. I want to talk about last year in the tournament and your team's dismantling, if we're being frank, of number 4 seed Arizona, and just what that victory, the first tournament win for Buffalo, what that does for a program, what that did for your program.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. It kind of put us on a national level. We had been winning. We had been to the NCAA tournament before. We had lost twice. You know, we played tough games against West Virginia when Coach Hurley was a coach, and then against Miami when my first year as head coach. And to finally get the one win and to win it in the way that we did, you know, really put us on a national map. I think it set the table for what we've been able to accomplish this year. Everybody respected us after that win. And, you know, then the polls, you know, all the voters respected us. We beat West Virginia. And I think had we not beaten Arizona, we probably don't get ranked in the top 25 like we did this year.
You know, it's interesting because now obviously everyone has a career to follow. A lot of coaches, when they have success at a so-called non-Power 5 school, make the jump to Power 5 schools. A lot of folks thought you might do that. Obviously, you stuck around in Buffalo. What is it about the program, the university, that you want to be a part of it, and obviously stuck around and continued a very successful process of building a winner there?
I mean, it's a great question. A lot of people ask that. And even now, a lot of people assume that I would jump even after this year. I just, like, my family likes it here. We've kind of embraced the city. My wife went through a battle with cancer in Roswell Park Cancer, took great care of her here. The university, it's the biggest public university in the state of New York. It's got 30,000 students. Like, people don't realize it's a high major university. And, you know, the athletic department's just getting off ground. We haven't been Division I for only about 20 years. So we're growing. We feel like we've got more potential than any other athletic department in the country. And it's nice to be a part of something new, something fresh, something that's growing from the ground up. And I think we're building it. We've done it fairly quickly. Coach Hurley got this thing started, making the NCAA tournament here 5 years ago, and then I've been able to build off what he was able to start. And, you know, it's nice to kind of build something from ground up like we've been able to do here.
Coach, at the risk of getting a little too highfalutin here, one of the things that I love, and I think a lot of people love about March Madness, it kind of reflects the American dream. If you work hard, if you work as a team, if you have a little bit of luck, really great things can happen to you, just like in this country. 5 or 6 years ago, you were coaching high school basketball. Now you're the coach of the number 19 team in the country. Do you give yourself the chance to kind of look back and have some perspective on how you got from there to where you are right now?
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes you got to get a little bit lucky in life, and you got to be ready when the breaks happen. I think, you know, like you said, you work hard, you get a break, and you take advantage of it. So, you know, I was a high school coach for 11 years at Romulus High School right outside Detroit. We did really well enough that the Hurley family, Danny and Bobby, you know, recognized what I did. They recruited one of my kids. I built a relationship with them. Bobby hired me. We went to the NCAA tournament. Danny White, who's now the AD at Central Florida, was the AD up here at the time. He hired me after only being a Division I assistant for 2 years. And shoot, now we're going to go to the NCAA tournament. This will be our 3rd year out of my 4 years as a head coach. And, you know, get some players, get lucky with some recruiting. CJ Massmer's way better than anybody thought he was going to be. Nick Perkins a lot better. And, you know, Jeremy Harris comes. You add all these guys. We got 5 seniors. We got a lot of experience. And you work hard. You catch a break here or there. And next thing you know, you're kind of on a national scene making some noise. And I've been fortunate enough to catch a few breaks in life.
Your team, you guys are fun to watch and easy to root for. Tough team, gritty team, hard-working team. There's a lot of parallels to the way the culture on the floor, at least, of your guys and the city of Buffalo where you play. Is that blue-collar mentality a coincidence, or was it something when you arrived in Buffalo you wanted to make a part of the actual program, the actual basketball team?
You know what? That's a great question. It is a blue-collar city, and we've kind of adopted this blue-collar mentality. We give out this hard hat we call them blue-collar points. We chart stuff that's not in a typical stat sheet. We chart floor dives and charges drawn and deflections, rebounds. You know, we give it a point system. We give a winner after each game. We give them this hard hat that's a real hard hat from a construction site. And so we've kind of adopted this whole blue-collar. I'll say this. When I coached at Romulus, we were about the same stuff. I just didn't have the whole blue-collar theme. Kind of Buffalo's definitely a blue-collar city. We love it here. The people are down to earth. They shoot straight with you. They support you. I mean, you can see the way they've supported the Bills and the Sabres through the years, and they've stuck, you know, through it thick and thin with the Bills. I'm more of a football guy than maybe a hockey guy, since hockey and basketball are in the same season. But you know, we love the city here, and we've kind of adopted this blue-collar approach. Our players have been great at it. We could have got a kid right down the road in Rochester, Dante Carruthers. He's about as blue-collar as they call him. He plays as hard as any kid you've ever seen. And put him and Devontae Jordan, our point guard, those 2 guys. And Massenberg's our best player, our leading scorer. But he's really, really blue-collar. He was overlooked coming out of Dallas and kind of plays with a chip on his shoulder. Everybody in the country overlooked him, and we gave him a scholarship. And he's been playing with that chip ever since he got here, trying to prove that he belongs at this level, and he's more than proved that. He's got a chance to leave the school. It's the all-time leading scorer in school history. So we've kind of approached it. we've kind of adopted it. The city's kind of embraced it, and we've kind of run with the blue collar theme for the last 2 years now.
I love it, and obviously you guys have had a lot of success, well-deserved. I think we mentioned at the start of the interview, number 19 in the AP poll. I think Ken Palm has you at 23, and I think your RPI, depending on where you look, is in the top 10. 9 is certainly what I saw earlier today. So a very successful season. NCAA tournament bid shouldn't even be questioned. You have one game left. As a coach, do you start talking to your guys right now about, hey, national title was the goal at the start of the year, and we're going to have a chance to play for that? Or do you message differently? What are you just saying to the guys as you try to ramp up for March?
You know what? That's a good question, because a lot of people set goals at the beginning of the year, and I didn't want to set a goal that if you don't hit it, you feel like you had a unsuccessful season. So we didn't really say national championship. What we said, we want to win the MAC regular season. We took care of that last night. We want to win the MAC tournament. We've got to take care of that next week. Get to the NCAA tournament. Let's be playing our best basketball come March. Then what we talked about is where our ceiling could be. And we felt like our ceiling, Loyola made a run to the Final Four, and who knows what happens. I think we've proved we can play with about anybody in the country. We beat Syracuse at Syracuse. We beat West Virginia at West Virginia. Syracuse went to Duke and beat them at Duke. Duke's arguably the best team in the country. I just think on any given night, if we put our offensive and defensive games together and play at a peak level on both sides of the ball, like we can play with anybody in the country. And we need some confidence going into March, and let's go into the March tournament and let's try to make some noise again. We won one game last year. Let's try to win multiple games this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to try to win a national championship, but if you have seniors, which you do, if you play defense, which you do, if your guys play, just care and play with passion, good things usually happen. In fact, speaking of seniors, senior day, the one game left is coming up. You've got 5 seniors, and a win on that evening, a win on that day would break, I believe, the school record for single season wins. Just for you, I know you're focused on the tournament ahead, but what are your emotions as you prepare to, at least at home, say goodbye to those 5 seniors?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty emotional. Yeah, I mean, you think about these 5 guys. So I've been a head coach now. This is my 4th year in Division I. C.J. Massenberg and Nick Perkins have been with me every game I've coached in Division I basketball now. So see those guys go out. Then you added Dante Carruthers, been with us now 3 years. And then Jeremy Harris and Montel McCray, those 2 guys really are skilled and gave us a whole nother dimension. Jeremy kind of torched DeAndre Ayton last year in the NCAA tournament. We don't get that win without him. Montel's played great, a big guy that can knock down threes and enables us to play the way we play. So it's going to be an emotional night. Those guys have done a lot for this basketball program. They've done a lot for the school. They've done a lot for the city, to be honest with you. The city's going to come out. I mean, we've been selling every game out in 2019. Our arena's already sold out for a game 3 days away, and it's going to be standing room only. And it's going to be great for the guys just to have the city of Buffalo, the University of Buffalo community, embrace them and let them know what they meant to this community as a whole.
All right, Coach, last question for you. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Bobby Hurley brought you in as an assistant back in 2013. I'm sure you learned a lot from Coach Hurley. If you were talking to a young assistant coach or an aspiring coach and you were going to give them one lesson, one bit of advice to try to pursue their career to the top of the mountain or as far as they can go, what's that one bit of advice you've learned, Coach Hurley taught you, somebody taught you back in the day? What's the one gem you would share?
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the conversation, we talked about catching a break. So I think what you have to do is you never know when that break's going to come. So you got to be ready whenever. You got to do your current job to the best of your ability and prepare yourself for what you think the next job is and be constantly working at it and just be prepared for whenever it may happen. And then obviously you've got to make some connections. Without the connections I had with the Hurleys, I wouldn't be here. So you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, get out, learn, go visit some college practices, learn what they're doing, build a relationship with those guys. But above all, you just got to do your current job. If I wasn't doing the job like I was at Romulus at the time I was doing it, I would have never had this chance. So do the job you're doing now, study it, work hard, outwork everybody, and shoot, when the break comes, be ready for it.
Coach, really appreciate you. I love watching your team play. I'll be rooting for you. Thank you. Very gracious of you. Thanks for making time for us.
No, I appreciate you having me on. It's great to be on. I appreciate you saying what you've said about our program.
It's true. Appreciate you. Coach Nate Oats, it's true. I love watching Buffalo play. That is a very, very good basketball team. Also a good basketball team is the Golden State Warriors. Haven't been playing as well of late. We're going to go inside the numbers on what is wrong with the best team in the NBA when we come back to the program Writer's Block here on CBS Sports HQ. All right, welcome back into the show. There they are, the best team in the NBA, question mark? And I'm not talking about the Celtics, although they certainly looked like it last night in dominating and humiliating the Warriors at Oracle Arena. Golden State has not played well of late, and while they're the most talented team clearly in the NBA and still the betting favorites to win the NBA championship this June, something's wrong. And we're going to go inside the numbers to get some perspective on it, coming off that humiliating loss to the Celtics. We start with the number 3. Last night, the Celtics snapped their losing streak as they dismantled Golden State, beating them by those 33 points. That's a big win. That is the Warriors' worst home loss since November 28th, 2009, also by 33. The Warriors starting 5 that year, Mr. Curry, Monte Ellis, Corey Maggette, good old Vladimir Radmanovic, and of course, who can forget Mickey Moore? How times have changed, at least until last night. Next up, 25. In that same game, the Warriors trailed the Celtics by 25 points at halftime. It's tied for the Warriors' second largest halftime deficit under Steve Kerr, and it's their largest halftime deficit at home since March of 2010 against the Dallas Mavericks. How about the number 30? Golden State might be regarded as the best team in the league. I certainly think they are personally. But regarding the spread, they're the absolute worst. They are a stunning 30th, dead last in the NBA in terms of their record against the spread. Gamblers everywhere hate the Warriors as much as some of those teams in the Western Conference. How about 44? The Warriors currently sit at 44 wins. At this point in the season, this is the least amount of victories the Warriors have had since the 2013-14 season, in which they had 39 on this date. There's still some things they do well, which is what brings us to 118.2. They are certainly still in first in the West by a game and a half over Denver. They played Denver Friday, interesting game. But just to show how the game has changed, while they're not dominating like they have the past few years, they're averaging the most points per game at 118.2 in franchise history, which means their defense, the thing that really propelled them to championships early on, has been utterly forgotten. And finally, 12.9, the Dubs are not getting the same production they did from their role players, and guys like Draymond Green used to be a superstar part of that mix. This year his player efficiency rating is 12.9, his worst in the past 5 seasons. That is not good and well below mediocre average. Draymond Green should be more than that. And last night, some more drama. This is a bad sign. The Celtics-Warriors game was in a lot of ways the bad chemistry, bad vibe Super Bowl of the regular season of the NBA, if you'll allow me that strained, mixed, and probably pretty painful metaphor. But the Celtics weren't getting along with Kyrie Irving. Apparently the plane flight helped. And we know there's been some Durant chemistry issues with that team on display last night. Steve Kerr came in after the game and said, in effect, and you can see it there, we didn't play with enough anger. Kevin Durant came back out, and reporters, of course, asked about it. What do you think about this comment? And he said, I thought we were supposed to be, you can see it there, in effect, thought we were supposed to be playing with joy. I don't agree with that. That is not a good sign. Neither is this. Defensive efficiency rating for the Warriors this year is 17. The first year the Warriors won an NBA championship under Steph Curry and co., they were the number 1 defensive efficiency rating team in the country. Nobody talked about it because of the three-point flurry, and they changed the game offensively. But it was defense that was critically important. Only 2 teams this century have won an NBA championship and not been in the top 10 in offensive and defensive rating. One was that Pistons team with Chauncey Billups and our own Rip Hamilton. The other was the Lakers team in the midst of a three-peat with Shaq and Kobe. You better get things straightened out defensively. And Kevin Durant, come on, man. You're the one that joined the Warriors, not the other way around. Start remembering the Warriors way. We're back tomorrow. Looking forward to having you here. Writer's Block, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. The guys in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, going to catch you up on what's trending in the world of sports. And then Sports Line coming up in 30 minutes here on your home for streaming sports, CBS Sports HD.